Tonight's notes are naming binary ionic compounds. When you name ionic compounds, you name the cation, the metal, first, and then the anion, which is the nonmetal. Okay? Pretty easy. Now, we're going to probably throw a little bit of a curveball here. Nonmetal ion names end in IDE. So in other words, if it ends in an O, it's not oxygen, but oxide. Okay? Do I expect you to be able to change those endings? No. In fact, I'm going to give them to you. Okay. All of these are the nonmetal ion names. So you need to pause the video here and write them all down because you will need them. We use them all. In fact, there's a few more because some of the metalloids, when they act like nonmetals, they get a nonmetal ending name. Okay? Okay. Now, metals, there are two types of metals. There's type 1, and they have, I gotta do this, only one known charge. In other words, it's either +1, +2, +3, +4. Actually, I don't think they even get to +4. It's usually +1 or +2 or +3. Okay? They only have one charge, and that's due to the valence electrons. Okay, so those are usually the representative elements. Type 2, on the other hand, they have more than one charge, and those are the transition metals and some of the other metals. Okay? I'm going to give you a periodic table tomorrow, which I have the type 1 metals shaded in. I know you've got a colored periodic table, but it also has the non-metal stuff, and I really don't want you getting too confused, so I'm hoping that you'll get to use this, because this will be the same periodic table that you use on the test. Okay? So it doesn't have the charges in it, but it has them shaded in, so you know that those are type 1. So you'll just have to know that group 1 is +1, group 2 is +2, group 13 is +3, and then you just have to know the zinc and silver. Okay? Now, when you name these compounds, if it contains a type 1 metal, it's just the metal name and the non-metal name, period. You don't have to worry about anything else. Okay, so let's look at the example. Now, we know that Li is lithium. So this is going to be lithium and then Cl. Now Cl is not chlorine. Not when you're naming these. It's chloride. So the chlorine changes to chloride. Here you have magnesium. And if you look on your thing, it's bromide. Just got to look in your notes. Br is bromide. Ag is silver. And O is oxide. And then Al is aluminum. And then S is sulfide. Okay? Pretty easy so far. Okay, now when naming compounds that contain a type 2 metal, you've got to use a Roman numeral. It tells you what the charge is. Because, I mean, if you've got copper 1 or copper 2, you have to know if the copper has a +1 or a +2 charge. So you can't just say copper chloride. There are two types of copper chloride, and they both have different properties. So there's copper 1 chloride and copper 2 chloride, depending on the charge of the copper. Okay, so you've got to somehow show that there are two types. Back in the old days, in fact, back when I was in high school, we didn't have Roman numerals. You had to know cupric or cuprous. There were two different names. One ended in IC and one ended in OUS, depending on whether it was the higher or the lower charge. And then you had to know the two charges on it. I kind of like this way better because the name, the Roman numeral, tells you exactly what the charge is. Okay, so if we look at it, lead, we have two types of lead. There's lead 4 and lead 2. I'm going to put this in parentheses. Depending on if it has a +4 or a +2 charge. Okay, so lead 4, 4 being Roman numeral 4, so that stands for the +4. Lead 2 is the +2 charge. Now, in order to find the charge on these compounds, though, because when you're naming them, you have to know the charge, you've got to look at one of two things. If there are no subscripts, no subscripts in the formula whatsoever, you need to find the charge on the non-metal, and then you figure out the charge on the metal. Well, it's pretty easy. It's the positive of that same number. Because remember, they have to cancel out. All compounds have to have no charge. Okay, so let's look at our example. So here we have Cu and Cl. Now we know that Cl has a -1 charge It's in group 17 of the periodic table, which has a -1 charge, which means the copper has to have a +1 charge. So this is copper 1 chloride.
You're talking about.
Okay. Now the next one, you look at oxygen. Oxygen has a -2 charge if you look on the periodic table. It's in group 16, so it's got a -2 charge. So the iron has a +2. So this is iron 2 oxide. Not too hard, I hope. Okay, if there are any subscripts, that's when it gets a little sticky. You got to actually cross the numbers back up. Okay, so let's look at the next example. Oops, why did I do that for? Oh well. This one, if you look at the Cu and the Cl, now what you're going to notice here is the Cu has no number next to it. So if there's no number, it's automatically a 1. So go ahead and put a 1 down there. Now it's easier to cross back up. So let's cross back up. This is a -1 and a +2. This gives me copper 2 chloride. Uh-oh. Oh well. Now this next one, we're going to put the 1 here. So we cross it back up, and we get oxygen with a -2, which it does have, and copper has the +1. So this is copper 1 oxide. Hopefully pretty straightforward. Okay. This is where you have to be careful though. When you're crossing back up, please, please, please double check that the charge on the nonmetal is what it's supposed to be. Because if not, that means you have to double it. Because that means that that formula originally wasn't in the lowest whole number ratio and you had to divide everything by 2 to get that. Okay, so let's look at PbO2. Now, if we cross this back up, oxygen is going to have a -1 charge and lead has a +2. Well, we know oxygen does not have a -1 charge. It has a -2 charge. So we've actually got to double it. So we get Pb with a +4 charge and oxygen with a -2 charge. Now that is correct. Okay, so oxygen does have a -2 charge. So the name of this is lead 4 oxide. Okay? Okay, so let's do some practice problems. See if you can do these. I'll have the answers for you tomorrow in school. Okay, so the first one, let's do a Ca and an O. And then let's do that one. And that one. And we'll make one more. Let's do, I like gold. Okay. So try those. 2 of them are type 1 and 2 of them are type 2. So you should be able to figure them out. I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.